John D. Rockefeller's path to immense wealth began humbly in Richford, New York, where he was born on July 8, 1839. His father, William Big Bill Rockefeller, was a traveling salesman with a dubious reputation, often absent from the family. This left John's mother, Eliza, to raise him with strong values of discipline, thrift, and hard work. Her influence became the moral foundation that guided Rockefeller's future, even as he would later employ ruthless tactics in business. At 16, Rockefeller took his first job as an assistant bookkeeper, quickly showcasing a sharp eye for numbers and financial management. His early ability to track finances and spot opportunities set him apart. And even as a teenager, he began lending money to neighbors, always ensuring debts were repaid in full. These small ventures foreshadowed the strategic, calculated approach he would later bring to his business empire. Despite his modest beginnings, Rockefeller's upbringing taught him resilience and resourcefulness. By age 20, he was already focused on building something bigger than himself. Little did anyone know that this quiet, ambitious young man from a struggling family would go on to dominate the American oil industry, altering the course of business history forever. John D. Rockefeller's foray into the oil business was not the result of a lifelong dream, but rather a calculated move born out of a sharp instinct for opportunity. In the 1850s, the United States was on the cusp of an industrial revolution, and oil quickly became a crucial resource. At the time, most oil was used to produce kerosene, which was in high demand for lighting homes and businesses. However, the oil industry was chaotic and unpredictable, with volatile prices and unstable companies vying for control of the burgeoning market. This wild environment would be fertile ground for Rockefeller's disciplined and strategic approach to business. After working as an assistant bookkeeper and venturing into the commodities trade, Rockefeller started to gain a reputation for his sharp business acumen. By 1863, at 24, he made his first actual move into the oil industry by partnering with Maurice B. Clark. Together, they opened a refinery in Cleveland, Ohio, under the name Andrews, Clark & Co. This refinery, though modest by future standards, would mark the beginning of Rockefeller's rise to power. Rockefeller immediately recognized that refining, rather than drilling, was where the real profits lay. Drilling for oil was risky and uncertain, but refining the crude oil into valuable products like kerosene was a more controlled and lucrative process. His focus on efficiency set Rockefeller apart from others in the business. He understood that refining oil at the lowest cost possible was the key to dominating the market. To achieve this, he implemented strict cost-cutting measures and sought to eliminate waste at every production stage. His attention to detail and relentless drive for efficiency meant that Rockefeller's refinery quickly became one of Cleveland's largest and most profitable. By 1865, Rockefeller's ambition had outgrown his partnership with Clark. After growing tired of internal disagreements, Rockefeller bought out Clark's share of the refinery for $72,500, a significant sum at the time, close to $135 million in today's money. With complete control of the business, he renamed it Rockefeller and Andrews and began his campaign to consolidate the oil refining industry under his leadership. The next central turning point came in 1870 when Rockefeller founded Standard Oil with several partners, including his brother William Rockefeller. Standard Oil quickly expanded, buying out competitors and streamlining operations to reduce costs. Rockefeller's keen eye for strategy and ability to secure favorable deals with railroads for cheaper shipping rates allowed him to outmaneuver other refiners. His willingness to aggressively undercut competitors and his relentless pursuit of vertical integration enabled Standard Oil to dominate the oil market. Rockefeller's entry into the oil business was not marked by drilling for black gold in the wilderness, but by systematic planning and an unwavering focus on efficiency. By concentrating on refining and distribution, Rockefeller positioned himself at the heart of the industry, laying the foundation for the world's most potent and feared oil monopoly. His empire was just beginning, but his ruthless, calculated, and visionary methods would forever reshape the oil industry and set a precedent for modern business practices. John D. Rockefeller's meteoric rise began in 1870 when he founded Standard Oil. But his approach to business was unlike anything seen before. Rockefeller didn't just compete, he systematically eliminated his rivals. His methods were not only aggressive, but secretive and, at times, ethically dubious. One key tactic that enabled Rockefeller to dominate the oil industry was vertical integration. By controlling every aspect of production, from oil wells to refinery to the transportation network, Standard Oil could operate at a level of efficiency that smaller competitors could only dream of. This integration allowed Rockefeller to sell his oil at significantly lower prices, undercutting his rivals and driving them out of business. But it didn't stop there. Predatory pricing was another one of Rockefeller's go-to strategies. Standard Oil would sell oil at a loss to undercut smaller companies in areas where competition was fierce. Once these competitors were driven out, Rockefeller would raise the prices again, taking full advantage of his newfound monopoly. It was a calculated and ruthless method that worked repeatedly, crushing any business that dared to challenge him. And yet, some of the most shocking tactics Rockefeller employed weren't about pricing or efficiency. Industrial espionage became one of his most covert and effective tools for crushing the competition. Rockefeller understood that controlling information was just as crucial as controlling oil. He employed spies and informants to infiltrate competing oil companies to stay ahead of his rivals, gathering critical intelligence on their operations, pricing strategies, production capacities, and business plans. These covert activities gave Rockefeller an invaluable edge, allowing Standard Oil to anticipate competitors' moves long before they could gain traction in the market. The intelligence gathered through espionage gave Rockefeller an almost omniscient understanding of the industry. He knew when his competitors were struggling financially or preparing to expand, and he used this knowledge to strike when they were most vulnerable. Standard Oil could preemptively neutralize any threat, whether undercutting its prices in targeted regions or rapidly acquiring its key assets. This network of spies also allowed Rockefeller to understand the production processes of rivals, sometimes leading to innovations that would further lower his costs and tighten his grip on the market. This practice of industrial espionage went beyond typical business intelligence. It was a full-scale infiltration of the competition. Rockefeller's agents not only obtained valuable insider information, but also sowed misinformation to mislead and confuse rivals. By planting false leads, Standard Oil could manipulate competitors into making poor business decisions, further consolidating its dominance. It was a systematic, calculated approach that demonstrated Rockefeller's willingness to go to extraordinary lengths to maintain his edge in the industry. But Rockefeller's underhanded tactics didn't stop at espionage. He also forged secret transportation deals that would further cripple his competitors. Railroads were the lifeblood of the oil industry in the late 19th century, and securing favorable shipping rates could make or break a refinery. Ever the strategist, Rockefeller knew this and struck clandestine agreements with the nation's largest railroads to receive deep discounts on oil shipments. These deals, often referred to as rebates, were negotiated behind closed doors, with the railroads agreeing to transport Standard Oil's products at a fraction of the price they charged other companies. These rebates were kept secret from the public and, more importantly, Standard Oil's competitors. The discounts were so steep that rival refineries could not compete with Rockefeller's transportation costs. The railroads sometimes would even pay Standard Oil a drawback, a percentage of the shipping fees paid by other oil companies. This meant that Standard Oil made money every time a competitor shipped oil. The railroads had effectively become complicit in helping Rockefeller maintain his monopoly, ensuring that no other company could come close to matching his prices or profit margins. The combination of industrial espionage and secret transportation deals made Rockefeller's dominance virtually unstoppable. He had complete control over oil production and distribution, information flow, and the infrastructure that made the industry possible. Competitors were blindsided, unable to compete with a company that seemed to know their every move and was always a step ahead. These tactics made Standard Oil a successful company and a juggernaut in the industry. Rockefeller's approach was as much about controlling the entire ecosystem as it was producing oil. By weaponizing information and securing secret deals, he created a playing field where Standard Oil could not lose. Though legal in their time, these actions laid the groundwork for modern antitrust laws and solidified Rockefeller's reputation as a businessman willing to push the limits of ethics in his pursuit of power and control. How could anyone compete against a company controlling everything from the wells to the railways while having spies inside your business? The answer? They couldn't. Rockefeller's dominance wasn't confined to the boardroom. He built powerful connections in Washington, D.C. and beyond to protect his empire. Behind closed doors, Rockefeller used his immense wealth to wield one political influence like a seasoned politician. Standard Oil was notorious for bribing local officials and legislators to pass laws that would benefit the company or block any attempts at regulation. Though hard evidence of bribery was often difficult to obtain, whispers of underhanded deals and questionable political donations followed Rockefeller throughout his career. But Rockefeller didn't just rely on bribes. He was a master of strategic political donation, ensuring the suitable candidates received his support. These donations secured him favors and influence over policies that would benefit his business. Standard Oil's lobbying presence was so powerful that it could sway local and national politics to ensure the continued growth of the Rockefeller empire. The political protections Rockefeller built around Standard Oil made it nearly impossible for regulators to touch him. But no empire, no matter how powerful, can avoid scrutiny forever. Rockefeller's grip on the oil industry grew tighter each year, but it wasn't long before the American public and the government began to notice. The sheer size and scope of Standard Oil's monopoly became impossible to ignore. By 1911, the company controlled a staggering 90% of the oil refining industry in the U.S. This level of control was unprecedented and set off alarm bells in political and economic circles. The U.S. government finally took action in response to public outcry and mounting pressure. The Sherman Antitrust Act, which was passed in 1890, was designed to combat monopolies like Standard Oil. In 1911, after years of investigation, the U.S. Supreme Court ordered the breakup of Rockefeller's empire. Standard Oil was dismantled into 34 independent companies, marking the end of an era. But ironically, the breakup didn't hurt Rockefeller. It made him even wealthier. As the value of his shares in the newly formed companies skyrocketed, Rockefeller's fortune grew to even greater heights. This twist of fate made it clear that, despite the government's best efforts, Rockefeller had outmaneuvered the system once again. The same cunning and foresight that helped him build Standard Oil allowed him to emerge from the breakup more potent than ever. With his business empire firmly established and his fortune secure, John D. Rockefeller shifted his focus to the most celebrated aspect of his legacy, philanthropy. By the early 1900s, Rockefeller was widely regarded as one of the world's wealthiest and most powerful men. But with his enormous success came public scrutiny and growing criticism of the cutthroat tactics he employed in building Standard Oil into a monopoly. As accusations of predatory pricing, secret deals, and industrial espionage tarnished his reputation, Rockefeller sought to reshape his public image. It was as though the same ruthlessness that had helped him amass his fortune would now fuel his desire to give much of it away. Philanthropy became the vehicle through which Rockefeller could contribute to society and rewrite his own narrative. In 1913, he established the Rockefeller Foundation, a charitable organization that would become one of the most influential in history. The foundation's mission was broad but centered around improving human welfare through advancements in medicine, education, and scientific research. Rockefeller was determined that his wealth would be used to address some of the world's most pressing problems. Throughout his lifetime, he donated more than $500 million, an astronomical sum at the time, laying the groundwork for philanthropy on a scale that had never been seen before. One of Rockefeller's earliest and most significant contributions was in public health. The Rockefeller Foundation spearheaded efforts to combat diseases like hookworm and malaria, particularly in the southern United States, where these illnesses had devastated communities. Through its medical programs, the foundation established schools of public health at prestigious institutions like Johns Hopkins University and Harvard. helping to elevate the field of epidemiology and contributing to breakthroughs that would save millions of lives. These efforts, in the founding of hospitals and research centers, demonstrated Rockefeller's long-term commitment to addressing global health issues, a commitment that extended far beyond simple charity. But medicine wasn't the only area of focus. Rockefeller's deep interest in education led to the creation and support of universities and research institutions, many of which remain leaders in their fields today. His donations helped establish the University of Chicago, transforming it into one of the world's premier academic institutions. Rockefeller also poured vast sums into Spelman College, one of the leading historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, reflecting his recognition of the importance of education in shaping a more equitable society. Additionally, the Rockefeller Foundation supported countless scientific advancements and funded research that contributed to biology, chemistry, and physics breakthroughs. While Rockefeller's philanthropy was groundbreaking and undeniably transformative for society, it left behind a complicated legacy. The shadow of his aggressive business practices still looms large for all the good his charitable giving accomplished. Critics argue that his philanthropy was not entirely altruistic, but a calculated move to cleanse his public image, a way to balance the damage caused by his ruthless pursuit of wealth. By giving away large portions of his fortune, Rockefeller could divert attention from the tactics that had drawn much criticism. The paradox of Rockefeller's legacy lies in the contrast between the two halves of his life. On the one hand, the ruthless businessman crushed competitors, manipulated markets, and built one of the biggest monopolies in history. On the other, the visionary philanthropist gave generously to improve public health, education, and scientific research, setting a new standard for charitable giving among the world's wealthiest individuals. Whether Rockefeller's philanthropy was genuine generosity or a carefully crafted redemption plan continues to be debated. Some argue that his charitable efforts were sincere, a reflection of his belief in the social responsibility of the wealthy. Rockefeller stated, "The good Lord gave me my money," implying that his vast fortune came with an obligation to give back. In this view, his commitment to philanthropy was an evolution of his character, a realization that his immense power should be used to uplift society. Others, however, see Rockefeller's philanthropy as an attempt to soften the public's perception of a man who had become a symbol of corporate greed. By funding institutions that would benefit future generations, Rockefeller could shift attention away from the monopolistic practices that had drawn the ire of both the public and the government. The fact that many of his charitable contributions were made after Standard Oil was dismantled in 1911, when Rockefeller's reputation was at its lowest, only adds to this suspicion. In this sense, his philanthropy could be viewed as repairing his image and ensuring that his legacy would be remembered more for the good he did than for the brutality with which he achieved his wealth. Despite these criticisms, Rockefeller's philanthropic contributions left an indelible mark on society. His establishment of the Rockefeller Foundation set a new precedent for wealth distribution, inspiring future generations of billionaires to follow in his footsteps. Figures like Andrew Carnegie in more recent times, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett have adopted similar models of philanthropy, using their fortunes to tackle global challenges. Rockefeller's influence in this realm cannot be overstated. He pioneered modern philanthropy. In the end, John D. Rockefeller's legacy remains one of duality. His name is synonymous with both monopolistic dominance and groundbreaking philanthropy. The tension between these two facets of his life fuels debate about how history should remember him. Was he the ultimate robber baron or a visionary philanthropist who recognized that his immense fortune could change the world? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Rockefeller's life was a reflection of American capitalism's extremes and the profound impact that wealth, when redirected, can have on society. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to be notified of more stories revealing the truth behind big businesses. Leave a comment if there is a business you'd like us to investigate next.